Hi, everybody, and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Teaching and learning exist as part of an interaction between people. To be effective, everybody's got to be engaged. So when we're teaching, we focus on what the learners in the class are experiencing. We're always trying to gauge the engagement of our students. Are they focused, tuned in, rolling with it, or are they bored out of their minds? But there's often a subset of the class that stymies us, the quiet students. Today, I'd like to talk about them and how we as instructors should be considering them in designing our courses. It's easy to tell that students are engaged when they're animated and talking freely. And because the behavior of quiet students is usually the opposite of this, instructors often misconstrue what's going on. Students who are reticent to participate verbally in class are sometimes viewed as unprepared, that they don't talk because they don't know what's going on, or that they're unengaged, they aren't talking because they aren't paying attention. The truth is, these views, though coming from a natural contrast, aren't accurate. Reticence to participate actively in discussions can stem from other causes. For example, many students who are reticent to participate verbally in class may be introverted. You may be familiar with Carl Jung's On Psychological Types. He drew a distinction between introverts who focus their attention internally on their thoughts and feelings, and extroverts who focus externally on other people and the outside world. Introverts tend to be energized by solitary activities and drained by social engagement. The reason these students aren't participating by speaking is that it's exhausting and not within their comfort zone, although they may be very engaged in actively listening and contemplating what's going on around them. Similarly, quiet learners may be shy. Shyness is a bit different from introversion because it tends to stem from different forms of social anxiety, low self-esteem, and imposter syndrome. These folks are holding back because they're terrified. What if they say something stupid or wrong? Or what if they stutter or can't be heard? Like introverts, they can be very engaged. They just aren't chatty. Interactions between these personality factors can make it almost impossible for some students to engage in class in the ways that you might optimally envision. And that's because we often pitch our courses to the more common extroverted personality. Academic culture tends to favor being talkative and comfortable in the spotlight, being highly engaged with the outside world, being fairly lighthearted, thinking while speaking, being gregarious and outgoing, bold and assertive, being comfortable with large groups of strangers, and maintaining energetic, enthusiastic, quick-thinking decisions. But studies have indicated that up to 40% of college students self-identify as more shy or introverted. That means that they're likely to be more quiet and reticent, more reflective and introspective, a little bit more serious, at least in the academic context, not necessarily comfortable speaking until their thought process has been completed. They may prefer more solitary activities and be more cautious in social engagement. They tend to prefer smaller gatherings of known individuals rather than large groups of strangers. They tend to make deliberate decisions that are based on analysis. So, for these students, our classrooms may not be the most welcoming environment. Like many other non-dominant groups, in order to be successful, quiet students have to adapt to the extroverted norm. While it's important that regardless of personal dispositions, we learn to operate outside of our comfort zones, the more that people are forced to do that, the more drained, stressed, and burdened they become. The message we are often unintentionally sending is that this way of being is bad. This can exacerbate feelings of not belonging in addition to adding cognitive and emotional load to our students. Best practices in inclusive teaching include valuing the lived experiences and personalities of all students. Making your classroom a safer and more pleasant place for the introverted and shy to be their genuine selves can increase their sense of belonging and their success. So, how can you help those quiet, seemingly passive onlookers? First, mix it up. Consider the diversity of how students process material, internally versus externally, when designing assignments. Provide options for reflections on thoughts. This is geared toward those shy and introverted students, in addition to the raucous discussions, which are geared toward the extroverts. Don't reduce your understanding of class participation to extemporaneous speaking. Recognize that some students are very actively engaged when listening to others. Allow participation by submission of questions or reflections in writing before discussions. You can incorporate these and validate the students' thoughts by reading them as part of the discussion. This validation may help some of the shyer students to gain social confidence and may open them up to voicing their ideas during class. Second, provide support. If extemporaneous speaking is required of students because of the nature of your learning outcomes, you can provide reflective questions in advance so that internal processors have time, space, and quiet to prepare for discussion. That will make it easier for them to speak during class. Encourage the students who are having difficulty with speaking in class. If your students falter while speaking, provide kind prompts. Find something to commend if they have spoken, even if they've given you a wrong answer. That way they will feel welcomed and encouraged to voice things without fear of being reprimanded for being wrong. Normalize the difficulty some learners have with the spotlight and that social engagement can be draining. Finally, emphasize a growth mindset. Practice always makes better. For students who are reticent to participate, the longer they avoid it and the more they avoid it, the harder it becomes. But by gradually easing into it, occasionally speaking, trying to say just one thing, they will get better. They will become less sensitive to those fears and anxieties. Third, provide choices to students. When the form of work is not relevant to assessing student achievement of learning outcomes, allow the students to pick the format that they're most comfortable with in demonstrating their learning. Finally, although I recently encouraged including group work in your courses because it can be very helpful to those who are more collectivist and those who process information socially, remember that it may be more difficult for those shy and introverted students. You may want to allow divided labor in group work. Some people are really great at prep, others are great at speaking. Don't require that all of the students do everything. This can help to limit the burdens that this type of work is putting on some students. Students benefit when they feel that they belong and that they're accepted as they are. Being mindful of shy and introverted students will make your courses more inclusive. And that's this week's teaching tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP, your one-stop shop for teaching support. Visit our website to schedule a consultation for help with course design, learning activities, assessment, or pedagogy.